Welcome to the deep dive. We've got this great stack of source material you shared on supply and demand, and our mission today, it's really to cut through the noise.
Yeah, give you a shortcut, basically.
Exactly, a shortcut to understanding how markets actually coordinate things.
Yeah.
We're not just staring at a graph here. We want you to see this model as, well, a really powerful lens, a lens for seeing how millions of different, sometimes totally conflicting interests get sort of harmonized, like your desire for cheap coffee versus the cafe owner needing to turn a profit.
And nobody's in charge. That's the amazing part. No central planner telling people what to do.
Right.
And, if there's one core idea, maybe a bit counterintuitive to grab onto right away, it's this. Disequilibrium. That imbalance. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Okay, say more about that. Not a system failure?
No, absolutely not. It's the critical signal. It's the flashing light that tells the whole system, hey, things need to change. It triggers the entire coordination process.
Yeah.
The market needs that imbalance to know where to go next.
That really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? Because we usually think of shortages or surpluses as just problems, economic bad news.
When really they're vital information, crucial data points.
Okay, so what's the game plan for today? We're going to break down the mechanics of that perfect equilibrium point first.
Yep, P star, Q star, where things theoretically settle.
Then we'll dig into why disequilibrium, that imbalance, is actually, well, pretty much the normal state of affairs.
It's the rule, not the exception. Absolutely.
And finally, we'll look at what happens when big shocks hit the system. Things that shift those underlying curves and force everything to adjust. Sound good?
Let's do it.
All right. Part 1, equilibrium. Let's unpack it. Our sources are clear. It's not some fixed state the market just sits in.
No, definitely not. Think of it more as a prediction. A tendency. It's the point the market is always sort of gravitating towards.
Pulled towards, yeah. And the amazing thing is how this point, this market clearing price and quantity gets figured out. It's just everyone acting on their own, using only the information they have right in front of them.
Exactly. That independence, that local knowledge, it's absolutely key. And it works because of these two fundamental forces, marginal benefit and marginal cost.
Okay, let's start with the demand side. Marginal benefit. That's us, the consumers.
Right. So think about that $4 cup of coffee again. Why do you buy it?
Well, because I want it, and the satisfaction, the caffeine kick, whatever. It feels worth $4 to me. At least $4.
Precisely. The utility, the benefit you get, is equal to or greater than the cost. That's your marginal benefit for that cup.
And the reason the whole demand curve slopes downwards is that famous diminishing marginal utility, right? That first coffee's amazing.
Life-saving, maybe.
Yeah. But the second one, still good, but maybe not as good. The third, less so. I'm definitely not paying $4 each for 10 cups in a row.
Exactly. Each additional unit gives you less marginal benefit. So you're only willing to buy more if the price drops.
Okay, makes sense. Now flip it. The supply side, marginal cost. This is the producer's perspective.
Yep, the coffee shop owner. They're willing to sell you that coffee for $4 because that price, well, it covers their costs for that specific cup.
Yeah.
The beans, the milk, the cup itself, a bit of the barista's time overhead.
And gives them enough profit or return to make it worthwhile.
Right. And the supply curve slopes upward because making more usually gets more expensive at the margin. To make, say, 100 extra cups during a rush.
You might need staff to stay late, pay overtime, maybe rush ingredient orders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those extra units cost more to produce. Your marginal cost increases.
So we have this downward sloping demand, marginal benefit, and upward sloping supply, marginal cost. And where they cross, that magical P star, Q star point.
Yeah.
What does that actually do for society as a whole? What does it achieve?
This is the really profound part. It achieves allocative efficiency.
Okay, allocative efficiency, break that down.
It means resources are being used in the way that maximizes the total value, the total surplus, for everyone involved, consumers and producers combined.
Oh.
Because at that equilibrium point, marginal benefit equals marginal cost. MB equals MC. Think about it. Every single unit produced, right up to that last one, provides a benefit to someone, the consumer, that's at least as great as the cost it took to make it for the producer.
So we're not making stuff that costs more to produce than it's worth to consume.
Exactly. And we're not failing to make stuff where the benefit would have exceeded the cost. We're producing just the right amount.
Yeah.
It's like a computational miracle performed by the market. No central planner could possibly gather all the info needed to figure that out for millions of goods.
Wow. Okay. And what keeps the market hovering around that efficient point?
Hmm.
The sources talk about a gravitational pull.
It's all about incentives. Pure self-interest, really.
Yeah.
If the price somehow gets too high, above equilibrium.
Quantity supplied is more than quantity demanded. You get unsold stuff piling up, a surplus.
Right. And what does a seller do with a growing pile of unsold coffee or widgets? They get nervous. They face costs for holding inventory, so they have a huge incentive to.
Undercut the competition, lower the price a bit to move the product.
Exactly. And others follow, and the price gets pushed back down towards equilibrium.
And if the price is too low, below equilibrium.
And then you've got a shortage. More people want to buy at that low price than sellers are willing or able to produce. Empty shelves, long lines.
Which signals to sellers.
Hey, big profit opportunity here. People are clamoring for this. They realize they can raise the price and still sell everything, probably making more money. So the price gets bid back up.
So it's this self-correcting mechanism, constantly pushing back towards balance. Adam Smith's invisible hand in action.
That's the one, driven by countless individual decisions, all based on price signals.
But, okay, if this invisible hand is so great and equilibrium is so efficient, why does the real world feel so messy? Why aren't markets just sitting calmly at P star Q star all the time?
Ah, the reality check, yeah. Because while equilibrium is the theoretical target, disequilibrium, that state of imbalance, is pretty much the constant reality.
The market's always moving.
Always. The underlying factors. Consumer tastes, technology, input costs, global events. They never stop changing. So the equilibrium point itself is a moving target. The market is always chasing equilibrium, rarely resting there.
Okay, so we need to differentiate here. There's like temporary imbalance, and then there's the more problematic, stuck kind of imbalance.
Exactly. Temporary disequilibrium is just normal adjustment friction, lags in the system.
Like a sudden heat wave hits, everyone wants ice cream now. The local store sells out. That's a shortage, right?
Yep, a temporary one.
Yeah.
It takes a little time for the store owner to realize demand spiked, order more ice cream, maybe raise the price slightly if the heat wave persists. It corrects relatively quickly.
But the persistent kind of disequilibrium, that's different. That's when something is actively blocking the market from adjusting.
Right. Often it's institutional rigidities, things that stop the price from doing its job of signaling scarcity and coordinating behavior. And often that means government interventions.
Price controls. This is where the model gets really interesting and maybe a bit painful because it introduces what the sources call deadweight loss.
Ah, yes. Deadweight loss. Economic value that just vanishes. Benefits no one.
Let's look at the classic examples. First, a price ceiling. That's a legal maximum price set below where the market would naturally clear. Rent control is the textbook case.
Right. So the government says you can't charge more than $6 for this apartment, but the market equilibrium rent is actually higher. What happens instantly?
Well, at that artificially low price, way more people want apartments than there are apartments available. Quantity demanded shoots up, quantity supplied probably shrinks because landlords aren't keen. So massive shortage.
A permanent shortage.
Yeah.
Because the price isn't allowed to rise to fix it. And since price can't decide who gets the scarce apartments, what does?
Other things. Non-price rationing, the sources call it. Waiting lists years long. Landlords playing favorites. Maybe illegal side payments, black markets.
Exactly. And think about the signal that low price sends to builders, to landlords.
It says don't bother building new apartments here, or don't spend much on maintaining the ones you have, you won't make it back.
Precisely. So over time, the housing quality tends to deteriorate and the supply might even shrink further. It's not just the shortage, it's the long-run damage to the housing stock.
And that deadweight loss, what does that represent here? What's lost?
It's all the potential renters who would have happily paid a bit more than the ceiling, and all the landlords who would have happily rented to them at that slightly higher price.
Yeah.
But the transaction is illegal.
So mutually beneficial deals that could have happened just don't.
Gone. Value destroyed. It doesn't transfer to someone else. It's just poof.
Yeah.
Pure economic waste.
Okay, flip side, price floor. A legal minimum price set above the natural equilibrium.
Classic example. Agricultural price supports or the minimum wage.
So if the government says you must pay, say, $15 an hour, but the market clearing wage for some jobs might be $12.
Then at $15, more people are willing to supply their labor than firms are willing to demand at that higher cost. You get a surplus.
An excess supply. And in the labor market, a surplus of labor is
Unemployment. Specifically, it means not everyone who wants to work at that mandated $15 wage can find a job. Firms hire fewer people than they would have at $12.
And with agricultural supports, that surplus is often physical stuff, right? The butter mountains and wine lakes we heard about.
Exactly. Governments often end up having to buy the excess supply just to maintain the floor price, leading to storage costs or sometimes destroying the surplus. Again, resources used inefficiently because the price signal is distorted.
So interventions can cause persistent problems. But even without them, the market gets hit by external shocks all the time, right? Stuff happens.
Constantly, you get big supply shocks. Think of the OPEC oil embargoes in the 70s. Suddenly, the supply of oil drastically contracted, prices shot up.
Or, more recently, the pandemic snarling global supply chains. That was a massive negative supply shock for tons of goods.
Definitely. And you get demand shocks, too. Maybe a study comes out linking a product to cancer. Demand shifts sharply left.
Or a product goes viral on TikTok and demand suddenly explodes to the right.
Yep, these shocks shift the entire curve, not just moving along it. And the market then have to find a new equilibrium.
Which brings us back to why that adjustment isn't always instant. You mentioned rigidities earlier, but specifically sticky prices and sticky wages.
Yeah, prices don't always snap to the new equilibrium level right away. Think about a restaurant. If the cost of ingredients goes up slightly, do they reprint all their menus immediately?
Probably not. It's a hassle, the menu costs idea.
Right. Or think about wages. Contracts often fix wages for a year or more. There are also social norms. Companies are really hesitant to cut nominal wages.
Okay, let's use that sticky wage example. A recession hits hard. Demand for a company's product plummets. Ideally, to reach a new, lower-cost equilibrium, maybe they should cut wages.
In a purely theoretical, frictionless world, maybe. But in reality, cutting pay across the board is incredibly damaging to morale. You risk losing your best workers and productivity tanks.
So that social norm, that resistance to wage cuts, makes wages sticky downwards.
Very sticky. So what does the company do instead if they can't easily lower the price of labor wages?
They adjust the quantity, they resort to layoffs.
Exactly. Instead of a price adjustment, you get a quantity adjustment, which creates that persistent surplus of labor and employment because the wage signal is effectively jammed.
Okay, this is tying together nicely. Let's really visualize this dynamic adjustment process. The sources walk through these 4 steps of a moving equilibrium. It seems like the most powerful way to use the whole model.
It really is. It helps you analyze change. Let's use a big one.
Yeah.
The rise of electric vehicles, EVs.
Okay, step 1, the change. What kicks it off? Let's say growing environmental awareness plus some major breakthroughs in battery tech making them cheaper, longer lasting.
Perfect. So what happens to the curves?
Well, people want EVs more, and maybe they're more affordable or practical. So the demand curve shifts rightward, big time.
Big time rightward shift in demand. Okay, step 2, initial disequilibrium. What does that look like?
At the old price for EVs, the price from before this shift, let's call it P1, suddenly way more people want to buy than cars are being produced. Quantity demanded is way higher than quantity supplied.
You've got a massive shortage, dealership lots are empty, waiting lists grow.
Right. Okay, step 3, market adjustment. How does the market react to this shortage?
The shortage itself is the signal. It tells dealers, wow, people are desperate for these. Consumers are willing to pay more. So dealers start charging premiums, prices well above the old MSRP. The price starts to rise from P1 towards a new, higher level P2.
And that rising price, that's a signal too, isn't it? Who's listening to that?
The automakers. That higher price screams, huge profits to be made here. Ramp up production.
So the higher price incentivizes them to make more EVs. That's the movement along the new supply curve, responding to the higher price.
Exactly. They invest in new factories, hire more workers, secure more battery supplies, all driven by that price signal.
Okay, and finally, step 4, new equilibrium.
The market eventually settles. The price finds its level, P2, where the new higher quantity demanded matches the now increased quantity supplied, Q2. We landed a new equilibrium with both a higher price and a much higher quantity of EVs being bought and sold.
And this cycle shock, disequilibrium, price adjustment signals, quantity adjustment, new equilibrium, it just keeps repeating for everything all the time.
Pretty much. It's the engine of how a market economy adapts, innovates, and allocates resources in response to constant change. It mediates economic progress.
So let's wrap this up. What's the big takeaway for you listening to this? Our sources really hammer home that this whole supply and demand thing, it's fundamentally about information and incentives.
Yeah, prices are incredible information condensing devices. Think about everything packed in the price of gas. Below politics, refining costs, shipping logistics, consumer driving habits, environmental regulations, all boil down to one number you see at the pump.
A number that tells you, the consumer, how much to use and tells producers how much to supply.
And the disequilibrium. That's the signal when the information changes. A surplus is basically yelling, price too high, make less.
And a shortage screams, price too low, make more.
It's like the market's nervous system, constantly sending these signals back and forth.
But, and this is huge but raised in the material, this leaves us with that fundamental tension, the big policy debate, efficiency versus equity.
Yeah. This is crucial. The market equilibrium, or MBMC, is efficient. It maximizes the total economic pie, the total surplus. No value is left on the table.
But
it makes absolutely no promises about how that pie is sliced. It's not inherently fair or equitable.
give us the stark example.
Think about a life-saving drug. The market equilibrium price might be incredibly high, reflecting high R&D costs or limited supply. That price might be perfectly efficient, maximizing total surplus between the company and those who can afford it.
But it means people who desperately need the drug but can't afford that high price are left out. They don't get it.
Exactly. The efficient outcome might be seen as deeply unfair or inequitable.
And that tension right there, that's the core justification for almost all government intervention in markets, isn't it?
It really is. It's why we have things like subsidies for essential goods, or price controls despite their issues, or progressive taxation to redistribute income. It's society trying to balance the efficiency the market provides with concerns about fairness and access. Even if those interventions sometimes create their own problems, like the persistent disequilibrium we talked about.
So it's a constant trade-off.
A fundamental one, which leads to maybe a final provocative thought for you to chew on.
Okay, leave us with something.
The next time you read a headline about unaffordable housing or a shortage of nurses or maybe volatile energy prices, try to look beyond just the problem itself. See the signals.
Ask, is this a temporary disequilibrium the market is trying to fix? Or is something blocking the adjustment?
Yeah. Is the price mechanism being allowed to work, sending signals about scarcity and incentivizing change? Or is there a rigidity, a regulation, a social norm, maybe market power that's jamming the signal and preventing the market from finding a solution? Analyze it through that lens. Signals, incentives, and potential blockages. It changes how you see the economic world around you.